Just Give Them a Job by Bill Mitchell. In today's Sydney Sun Herald, in the article Record Sign-Ons for Work for the Dole, Frank Walker reports that a record 13,000 people have signed up on Work for the Dole projects in New South Wales so far this financial year, and the federal government says the scheme is succeeding in getting people into jobs. The Department of Employment and Workplace Relations post-program monitoring in 2004 shown that around one-third of Work for the Dole participants were getting positive outcomes, despite the fact that the Work for the Dole scheme is a mutual obligation program, forcing compliance rather than an employment program. The government thinks that the fact that 1 in 3 people who did work for the Dole projects got full-time jobs afterwards is something to crow about. The article quotes the minister as saying it provides the long-term unemployment with a purpose. It gives them experience of working in a team. They do something which is beneficial, and it gets them into a routine of going to work. End quote. The official data reveals that there has been a 13% jump in the number of people on Work for the Dole schemes so far this year. Walker writes that, quote, this year, $178 million is being spent assisting 80,000 unemployed people on Work for the Dole projects, end quote. The minister also claimed that employers are now looking at those who do work for the Dole as a positive, as they are helping themselves and they are contributing to the society which is helping them, end quote. A private sector training representative said that the Work for the Dole was good for the confidence of the unemployed, and is quoted by Walker as saying, quote, after years out of work, many people are isolated, have low self-esteem and low morale. While working in a team on a meaningful project like building something, cleaning graffiti, or fixing up parks helps them feel they are doing something worthwhile, end quote. There have been 2 major reports released in recent years examining the Work for the Dole scheme. The first, Does Work for the Dole by Jeff Borland and Yiping Tsieng at Melbourne University, examined the impact of the Work for the Dole scheme on transitions out of unemployment. Their main conclusion was that, quote, there appear to be quite large, significant adverse effects of participation in Work for the Dole, end quote. The report also says that Work for the Dole participants are less likely to enter paid work than those who don't take part in the scheme, that Work for the Dole had slightly more adverse for females than males, and that Work for the Dole has a significant adverse effect on labor market outcomes for participants in regions with above median rates of unemployment, end quote. Despite commissioning the research, the government dismissed it as irrelevant because it had only examined the pilot phase of Work for the Dole. In October 2003, Work for the Dole, Obligation or Opportunity by John and Ann Neville, CDA and UNSW Press, was published and the government seized on its marginal support for Work for the Dole as vindication of the scheme's success. The main conclusions of the report are A. While helping participants find a job is not a formal objective of Work for the Dole, the majority of participants want to be able to get a job at the end of their placement. B. The majority of participants want to get a job and value highly relevant work experience, but the restriction on for-profit agencies being involved in Work for the Dole projects prevents many participants from gaining the type of work experience they desire. C. 95% of community work coordinators said they would offer more training if the department paid for it, and 65% said they would offer more if it were not for the guidelines, even if they had to pay for it themselves. The authors notably concluded that in recent years, around 1/4 of Work for the Dole participants are employed 3 months after leaving the program. Probably between 60 and 70% of those who find jobs would have done so regardless of their participation in Work for the Dole, end quote. None of this provides great testimony for the scheme. It certainly says that the unemployed, despite the neoliberal rhetoric to the contrary, are motivated to be part of the paid workforce and gain relevant work experience in the context of paid work. It also says a lot about the benefits of work to self-esteem and a sense of independence. But the work for the dole scheme is not the solution. All of the benefits can be gained and more by providing more public sector jobs. The simple problem driving unemployment is that there are not enough jobs to go around. See my dogs and bones fable to get the drift. The other problems are A. Work for the dole maintains the myth that the unemployed are to blame for their situation and should have to give something back for the pitiful support they are provided with by the public. B. Work for the dole is part of the compliance regime that allows the most disadvantaged Australians to be punished by the way of benefit reduction or withdrawal for minor infractions of the punitive activity tests. In 2001, FACS data showed that breach penalties imposed on the unemployed jumped from 120,718 in 1997 to 1998 to 346,078 in 2000 to 2001. In 2000 to 2001, 18% of unemployed persons receiving allowances incurred a penalty. So instead of expanding work for the dole, the government should honor its obligations to the international human rights treaties, which make the access to paid employment a human right, and introduce a job guarantee immediately. The Argentinians have done it, and have shown that the administrative and operational issues that the doomsayers so often introduce as red herrings into the debate can be solved. It is clear the unemployed want to work. The extra investment in a full award wage-based job guarantee would be minimal relative to the benefits. I am also somewhat confused at the current generosity that is prevailing in Australia at present, when I compare it to our highly developed dislike and spitefulness for those undergoing the slow death of unemployment. This is an attitude that is constantly being groomed by our government towards our most disadvantaged citizens, and we all just fall into line. Seems like double standards to me.